Hi, welcome back to reading. Today we are learning more about figurative language. So far we have learned two types. We first started on similes. Second, we worked on metaphors. This week we will continue to review similes and metaphors. And after I teach you our new things today, we'll put it all together on one sheet and take a look at it again. But our new type of figurative language today we are learning is called personification. Okay, that is a big word. Let me break that down a little bit. Okay, if you look at the very beginning, it says person. Okay? So when you think of personification, you need to think of person. Okay? So personification is when we give something that's not a person the qualities of a person. All right? Personification is giving non-human qualities, giving human qualities, things like our actions, feelings, and thoughts, things only people can do, and giving them to non-human objects. So it could be like a leaf or a rock or an animal or a book or a desk. Anything that's not a person, if we make it sound like it's a person, give it actions, feelings, and thoughts, that is called personification. All right? So let's look at a couple examples. The leaves danced in the wind. Okay, I understand what that means. It means the leaves were flying around in the wind in kind of a pretty way, right? They weren't literally dancing. Leaves can't dance. Number one, they're not people. People dance. So if this is an action that only people can do, and we have said that a non-human is doing it, that's personification. Now let's look at this one. The toys dreaded playtime at the daycare. First of all, that makes me think of Toy Story. Okay, so toys, all right? Something like a toy at your house. I don't have any toys right next to me, but they aren't real, right? They're not people. They can't have feelings. They can't feel dread. So if we say toys dreaded playtime, that's personification. Okay? We all know what it means. We know these toys aren't actually dreading, but it's fun to hear things like that. Okay? So we're going to go through a few examples today together to get us started. And our directions need us to circle the object that is being personified in each statement. Then underline the word or words that show the human quality the object has been given. So first, I need to figure out the object that's being personified. All right, let's read number one. The wilted flowers begged for water. All right, well, what non-human thing is getting a human-like action in this sentence? I'm looking for my nouns. Well, it's not water. They're not saying that water is doing something person-like. I think they're saying that flowers are doing something person-like because they're begging. Flowers can't beg. They're not people. So we're going to circle the object that's being personified, which is the flowers, and we underline the word or words that show the human quality, which would be begged. Okay, even if you said the wilted flowers were thirsty, that would be personification, right? Because plants can't feel thirst. You could say the wilted flower was dying. Okay, that's something that can happen to a plant. But anything like begging or being thirsty, those are all things that people feel. The second one, the nail waited in fear for the next blow. Ooh, so it's getting hammered, okay? The nail waited in fear for the next blow. Well, the object that we're giving person-like traits to, I'm thinking it's the nail. And what is the nail doing that's person-like? Okay, this is more than one word. It's actually a phrase. Waited in fear. Okay, just waiting. Objects can't sit around waiting. They just are there, right? People wait. But it waited in fear. Okay, so they gave it a person-like quality. The third one. The tired old shoes wanted only to rest in the closet. The tired old shoes wanted only to rest in the closet. Well, you should be thinking now, which object are we personifying? Hopefully you're thinking about your shoes. We did have another noun, this closet here, but they're not giving any traits to the closet. All right. Now, what part of this is being personified? Tired. Okay, shoes can't feel tired. That's something people feel. Number 4. The ripe red strawberries smiled up at me from their bowl. Okay, this one's a little more obvious. We can tell the strawberries are smiling, right? Strawberries can't smile, but it makes for a nice sentence. The earth The earth felt she had nothing left to give. Huh. Well, the earth is not really a living thing. It's not a person. So the earth is what we're giving personification to. Now, what part of that is a person like action, thought, or feeling? Felt. Okay? Just saying that the earth felt something is personifying it. So, in a nutshell, anytime you talk about an object that's not a person and give it human-like traits, you are using personification. It is one of my favorite types of figurative language. So we will do some fun stuff with this later this week. But you can personify anything. Sometimes I would set up desk supplies on a desk and have my students write a story about what they thought the desk items would do after we all went home. So you can think of personification in many ways, but Toy Story is a great example. All of those items that can come to life, they're being personified, right? All right. I need to go quickly change the screen. I'll pause you. I'll be right back. All right. I am back. Now, the last type of figurative language we are learning is hyperbole. And you actually already know what this is. You just didn't know the proper term for it. So remember earlier this year we were talking about tall tales. And that sometimes they're over-exaggerated because it makes the reading more interesting. Okay, so I'm thinking about Johnny Appleseed and Paul Bunyan, some of those tall tales. And they're just really over-exaggerated. Like if I said, I had to wait in a line for 1,000,000 years to get my sandwich. Did I really wait in line 1,000,000 years? Absolutely not. Okay, that's not even possible. But we say hyperboles all the time to over-exaggerate and get our point across. So hyperbole, all it is when you over-exaggerate. And these are also one of my favorites. They're really fun. So looking up here, hyperbole is when a statement is exaggerated to make a point. So let's look at our examples. First, I called you 1,000,000 times. Okay, we maybe have said something like that. Like, why won't you answer? I called you 1,000,000 times. You did not literally call them 1,000,000 times, but you're over-exaggerating to show that I called you a lot, right? You're making a point. That pizza is bigger than Texas. Not literally, right? That'd be ridiculous. But if you had a huge pizza and someone said, man, that's bigger than Texas, that's hyperbole. I will die of embarrassment. I've heard things like that before. Okay, not literally. But when you're so embarrassed you just feel like you can die, that actually is a hyperbolic statement. It's hyperbole. He is older than the hills. People say that about elderly people sometimes. Now, we have been studying rocks. We know how rocks can be very, very old. So, no, he is not older than the hills, but it's a fun expression to poke fun at how old someone might be, right? Okay, so down below, we are going to read these statements, and we're going to decide if it's an H for hyperbole, an N if it's not a hyperbole. And they remind us that if it really could happen, it's not a hyperbole. So that's our job to think about that. This first one, my dad's snoring is louder than a freight train. Is that really true, or is it over-exaggerated? Over-exaggerated, okay? Snoring cannot be that loud. Even if someone snores crazy loud, that is still a hyperbole. Number 2, Jessica's smile was a mile wide. Well, that sounds nice, but I hope her mouth isn't actually a mile wide. That's very weird. That's a hyperbole. But we can tell she's got a big smile. Number 3, Jason stayed up all night reading his new book. All right, he stayed up all night reading his new book. Could that actually happen? Yeah, it could. You know, I've done that before in college. Sometimes you have to pull some all-nighters. Actually, when I was your age, I would read more than I was supposed to at home at night under my covers. But is that a hyperbole? No. Number 4, I have 1,000,000 things to do today. Well, while it might sometimes feel like you actually have 1,000,000 things to do, you do not. That is hyperbole. The grizzly bear was as big as a mountain. All right, that's hyperbole. It's also something else, and I hope some of you heard it and noticed it. Would that be a simile or a metaphor? The grizzly bear was as big as a mountain. Right, it's a simile, right? Because we're comparing using the words as. So some sentences can be more than one type of figurative language. We just found an example. That's a simile, and the simile is a hyperbole because they're exaggerating so much. Number 6. It took me 100 years to do my homework. No, I don't think anyone's ever done homework for 100 years. I don't think that's literal. I think they're over-exaggerating. So that would also be a hyperbole. All right. So let me give 1 minute to pause, and I'll put our review sheet up so we can see all 4 together that we're working on. Okay. So the last thing we need to do is go over the 4 things we've worked on, okay, last week and this week. There might be another couple different things that I want to add in as we go this week, but these are the main things. Hold on, I'm just getting some magnets to lay this flat so you can see it better. Okay. That's better. Okay, so we're going to review really quickly. If you don't have your whiteboard, you need it, so make sure you've grabbed it. We are going to pick one topic, and we are going to write a simile for it, a metaphor for it, personification, and hyperbole, all for one topic, okay? And I already picked out our topic, so we are going to be describing a suitcase. All right, I'm going to put that at the top. And the suitcase you are picturing, it can be any type of suitcase you want. And like usual, when I'm giving examples, you can give your own examples. If you have a better idea, write down your own idea. But I can always get you started, okay? So, talking about a suitcase, and we want to make writing sound more interesting. That's always the goal of using figurative language. So we need a simile. So remember, a simile compares 2 things, 2 unlike things that have one thing in common. And we have to use like or as. Okay. So, what is my suitcase like? Well, the suitcase I'm picturing is going to be very, very dirty and old, okay? So that's how I'm picturing it. You could picture a brand new suitcase, a tiny cute suitcase, a special suitcase you've always wanted, the perfect one. I don't care, okay? Whatever you want to think about. But my simile will compare my suitcase to something dirty, because this is a dirty suitcase. All right, so simile. My simile will be like this. So my simile for the suitcase is, look, that suitcase is as dirty as yesterday's socks. All right. Yesterday's socks are usually kind of gross. So make sure you do it right. As long as you've got as to compare your suitcase to something else that's similar, you've done it correctly. It's a simile. All right? Remember, you don't have to use as. You can say like. You could say that suitcase is like something else. All right, so if you need to pause to keep working on your simile, go for it. We are going to roll right along to a metaphor. Metaphor. Now remember, a metaphor is similar to a simile. It compares 2 things in the same way, but we do not use like or as. Okay? You can't use like or as. Now metaphors are harder to write. Okay? So you've got to make sure you do it correctly. So I'm also thinking that my suitcase is really heavy. So in my metaphor, I'm going to talk about how it's heavy, okay? And instead of saying my suitcase is heavy, I'm going to use a different word. My suitcase is a stone. All right? Hopefully that makes you think it is heavy. Heavy. I could say my suitcase is a boulder. Okay? Is that also hyperbole? It would be. Okay? Like I said, sometimes sentences can be more than one type of figurative language. If you need more time to write a metaphor, pause. If not, we're going to try personification. Personification. So for this example, we need to give our suitcase a human-like quality. I think I've got an idea. My suitcase groaned as I crammed it full. All right, so the groaning part, this makes it person-like, right? Suitcases don't groan. That's something people do. All right, if you want more time to write your own personification sentence, pause. If not, we're going to move on to hyperbole. Okay, so we know hyperbole is over-exaggerating. All right, an example, we waited in line for 1,000,000 years. Okay, so I'm going to get back to this idea of my suitcase being really heavy. Okay, I can have a lot of fun with that, talk about how heavy it is. This suitcase weighs 1,000,000,000 pounds. Clearly it doesn't. But if anyone said that to me, I would realize that they're carrying a heavy suitcase. Okay? All right. So these are the 4 things that we've learned so far. There are another couple parts of figurative language we'll talk about this week, but they're much simpler and easier to understand. So today, you need to make sure that your understanding of similes, metaphors, personification, and hyperbole is starting to get pretty understood. And if you're not getting it, I hope you all know what to do now, right? You need to reach out to me and let me know. All right. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.